Okay, so we're down in Mexico, and about a year ago we bought this Speed Queen wringer roller washing machine, and it wouldn't drain. And I watched a video online about how easy it was to take this agitator out. I finally figured it out, but this one was not easy to take out. Take this nut off, take the little detergent basket, and then that square is not a nut, it's the drive for the agitator, and mine was rusted up there. So what I ended up doing was just take a 5/16 bolt, run it down in there, a few threads, pick up on the agitator, it'll move slightly, maybe 1/4 of an inch, and then I just gave that a good tap with a pretty good size hammer, and it popped right out. In fact, it doesn't want to come off again. So I'll go grab a hammer and show you how I did that. All right, so we're back. Got a 2-pound hammer, I don't know. Got the bolt in there. I'm gonna pick up on this slightly and just give it a little tap. Draw it out of there. And then if you look down in there, that's a lint filter, and it was completely clogged full. And the passage, this is the bushing that the agitator rides on. The passage down to the drain hose was completely full of lint. So I made the mistake of taking the fitting that the drain hose connects to off from the bottom because I couldn't figure out how to get the agitator out. And that created more problems because there was a gasket there, and then I tried to RTV it and I didn't put enough on it, and now it's leaking again. So I'm gonna clean this again, then I'm gonna pull that fitting back off, reseal it, put it back together, and hopefully it doesn't leak anymore. So one of the other issues we ran into with this thing was we have pretty uneven surface down here, and sometimes we do laundry outside and it's just a brick patio out there. And these casters were really hard, undersized, and didn't want to turn in the direction of travel at all. So I bought these little ball bearing casters at a secondhand place back home, hoping they would work. And I was able to take these guys out, and there's a little bronze bushing that sits right there. And I was able to take those off and use 3/8 bolts to bolt those casters back to the original mounting places. And you'll notice on the top of these, that little notch there, there's a little clip in there, and you got to spread that clip, and then this thing basically just pops right out. So totally easy to retrofit some better casters onto these machines. Now this thing is the deluxe model. And what makes it the deluxe model is this little spring wound timer that chimes when your time, according to what type of fabric you're washing, elapses. Not connected to the electronics, doesn't control the machine in any way. It's just a little timer that dings at you. Very deluxe. One of the other things we're struggling with right now on this thing is, I don't know if you can see that, but the rollers, they're still totally functional, but I don't think there's a lot of life left in those. So totally easy to pull the rollers out of this thing. You just push this little release, pop those 2 clips out on either end of that right there, and the other side. And then the top roller comes out, and that's just an idler. And the bottom roller, you just swing that head out of the way, and you pick up, this end is the driven end. This end, you pull up on that end, disengage it from this end, and then it just lifts out. The top and bottom rollers are 2 totally different things. So the roller itself is a little over, or just under a foot long. Overall length on the top one is 14 and maybe change. But the overall length on the bottom one is just over 16 inches with the shaft. Totally different thing. So don't buy 2 top rollers thinking you're getting a pair. So I was able to find the top one, ordered it on eBay. It should be there when we get home, and still searching for the lower one. If anybody has any leads on any, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks. Now I'll get to seeing if I can seal up that fitting on the bottom. Okay, we got it all back together. I don't know how well you could see it in the video, but there was a little pinhole in that fitting from corrosion. So I used some Permatex 15-minute epoxy to seal that up, re-RTV'd it, put it back on, cleaned everything up. I actually used a couple different files here on the ground to try and kind of machine that mating surface on that fitting. Got it pretty close enough without taking too much material off, and I feel like we're probably going to get a good seal out of it. The other thing I did was, when I removed that hose from the fitting, I noticed it was pretty damaged and it was splitting out, and so I chopped off about 3/4, ½ inch, 3/4 of it, just to get a fresh bite inside the hose where the barb is. And then actually used just a little bit of hand lotion in it to lube it so I could force it down over that. Trying to get one of those hoses, a replacement, is near as I can tell impossible. So we're gonna try and nurse this one along as long as we can, just because of the cool factor, and it's got, you know, the little hanger end on it there, and eventually I'm sure we'll have to replace it with just a generic piece of hose, but until then we'll keep nursing it along.